The pain came first, a deep, throbbing ache that pulsed through every nerve ending like molten iron. Kara Ven's eyes snapped open to unfamiliar darkness, her breath catching in her throat as fragmented memories clawed their way to the surface. The colony, the attack, the children, the cubs. She bolted upright, immediately regretting the sudden movement as her vision swam. The room around her was wrong, all wrong. Bioluminescent panels lined walls of smooth, obsidian-like material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The air tasted metallic, filtered through systems designed for lungs that weren't human. "You wake." Finally, Kara's head whipped toward the voice, her hand instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. In the corner of the cell, because that's what this was, a cell, sat a small figure, fur the color of burnt copper, large amber eyes that caught what little light existed, and ears that swiveled independently toward every sound. One of the cubs, Zurich? The name came unbidden, pulled from those last desperate moments. She'd learned their names during the 3 weeks she'd spent protecting the Kesharan refugee children on Outpost Meridian. This one had been the smallest, the quietest, always watching her with those impossibly old eyes. The cub, no, Kara corrected herself. The young Kesharan stepped forward. He couldn't have been more than 8 standard years old, but he moved with the cautious grace of his species. "You remember." "Good. They said you might not. Human brains, they said, are fragile. Where are we?" Kara pushed herself to her feet, swaying slightly. Her body felt wrong, too light and too heavy all at once. She looked down and found herself in a gray medical shift. Her usual combat gear gone. More alarming, her injuries were healed. The plasma burns, the shattered ribs, the punctured lung from when she'd thrown herself between the cubs and the Vrexian death squad. She should be dead. "Fortress Kelnvar," Zurich said matter-of-factly. "Deep Vrexian territory. 17 jumps from where we—" His voice cracked, the adult composure slipping to reveal the frightened child beneath. Kara crossed the cell in 2 strides and knelt before him. "The others? The other cubs?" "Safe. You got them to the escape pods." Zurich's small clawed hand reached out, grabbing a fistful of her shift with desperate strength. "You stayed behind. You fought them all. I saw through the viewport before the pod launched. You took the final blow meant for my sister's pod." The memories flooded back with crystal clarity. Vrexian raiders, their chitinous armor gleaming like oil slicks, descending on the barely defended outpost. The human garrison had been recalled 3 days prior. Budget cuts, the bureaucrats had said. Only Kara remained, a security consultant whose contract hadn't technically expired. 23 Kesharan cubs under her protection. 23 refugees fleeing a war they didn't start, seeking asylum in human space. And the Vrexians, who saw the Kesharan species as little more than intelligent livestock. "Then how am I here?" Kara demanded. I felt my spine break. I felt, "They have technology," a new voice interrupted. Deeper, resonant with harmonics that made Kara's teeth ache. A Vrexian warrior stepped through the wall, through a doorway that had been perfectly camouflaged. Its 4 arms ended in blades, and its compound eyes fixed on her with alien intelligence. "Resurrection pods. Quite expensive. You should feel honored." "Human." Kara pushed Zurich behind her, a futile gesture without weapons, but instinct nonetheless. "Why?" "Because you're an anomaly." The Vrexian chittered, a sound their translators rendered as amusement. "Humans aren't supposed to fight for other species' children. You're supposed to be rational, self-interested. Your diplomatic corps certainly is. But you?" The warrior gestured with 2 of its blades. "You killed 47 of our finest soldiers. You held a choke point for 17 minutes. You died 3 times before we finally subdued you, and each time, you got back up. What do you want from me? To understand, to study, to break?" The Vrexian turned to leave, then paused. "We kept the small one alive as an incentive. He refused to let the medical drones near you. Quite loyal, for prey." The door sealed behind the warrior, leaving them alone again. Kara's mind raced, cataloging details, searching for weaknesses. The bioluminescent panels ran on some kind of organic power source. The walls, despite their appearance, had seams, and Zurich had been here long enough to learn the layout. "How long was I dead?" she asked quietly. "3 cycles. They kept asking me questions about you. About humans. I didn't tell them anything." Zurich's voice was fierce with pride. 3 days. The other cubs would be safely in human space by now, processed as refugees, given sanctuary. The thought brought a grim smile to Kara's face. She'd completed her mission, even if the cost had been her life. Except she wasn't dead anymore. "Zurich, I need you to tell me everything you've seen. Guard rotations, patrol patterns, how many warriors, where the other prisoners are kept." The young Kesharon's ears perked forward, hope kindling in his amber eyes. "You're going to get us out?" Kara looked down at him, this child who'd refused to leave her side even in an enemy fortress, and felt something crystallize in her chest. Humanity had a reputation in the galaxy, clever, adaptable, but ultimately too divided to be a true threat, too willing to compromise, to negotiate, to seek peaceful solutions. But humans also had another trait, one that every species that had ever tested them learned to respect. They were absolutely terrible at abandoning their own, and somewhere in the past 3 weeks, Kara had adopted this scared, brave little cub as her own. "Yes," she said simply. "That's exactly what I'm going to do." The Vrexians had made a fatal miscalculation. They'd brought her back to study human resilience, to understand what drove one of their species to suicidal heroism for alien children. They were about to learn that lesson up close. Kara Venn had died to save the cubs once. Now, alive in an enemy fortress, with nothing but her wits and a determined child at her side, she was going to show these predators what humanity really meant. And this time, she wasn't planning on dying at all.